Yo, what's up, everyone? We figured we'd go through the new Rolling Stone Top 500 list. It's much better than our last list. Our last list is basically just the vanguard of out of touch with reality boomers. I think there was one album from this millennia in a top 200 or something like that.
Yeah, all music stopped being good after the year 2000, obviously.
After the year 80 or 1980, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. It just stopped being good.
I think it was Kid A. At least they show something good, but like,
Fair enough.
come the fuck on. All right, so we'll take a look at their new list. It's not great, but it's better. So
It's all right.
I was impressed for Rolling Stone standards.
That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, so number 100. I have not heard this album, so I don't have much to say about it. They're the band. It's Rolling Stone. I'm not surprised to see them here. So
Fair.
sure.
You're definitely going to be dominating some of this discussion.
That's all right.
Heard more music?
Yeah. Taylor Swift, Red. I've heard it once. It's not my favorite Taylor Swift album. I'm not surprised to see her get an entry on the list, but
Critics really do like her.
critics really do like
It's
her. I
interesting.
mean, she's popular. She
Like,
like
she's all right.
scratches some itch for a lot of people, I guess, with that weird pop country mix. But
I'm fine with Taylor Swift.
she's fine. Yeah, I'm not. I don't hate this. It could be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't put her there, but it could be worse.
That's fair.
I don't even know what that is. Lucinda
Okay.
Williams. I've never heard of Lucinda Williams. I'm sorry if anyone's a big fan of hers, but I don't know.
See, this next pick kind of bothers me.
Yeah,
Not that it's on the list. I love the album.
yeah, it's a great album.
It's a great album. I just think it should be
It
higher.
would be in my top 100.
That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah,
I
I
think
have it
it's a
higher.
fantastic album.
Yeah, if I were to make a list like this, I would have this 50s, 60s probably.
And I suppose we'll get to this later, but if I remember correctly from when we were doing our quick once over from the list, this is
Yeah.
like the only metal album for like a while.
Yeah,
And
which
it's
is
like,
it sort of shows a lack of being in touch with different genres.
yeah.
I know that metal is not really in vogue right now like it was in maybe the earlier 2000s.
Yeah.
But come on, it's Metallica. It's their flagship album. It's the
Yeah.
album that you're going to see highest on a list like this. And probably the metal album in the entire genre that you're going to see highest on a list like this. I don't
Yeah.
know if they have maybe Paranoid above it. I could see them putting above it. But
I didn't think
if this is the highest placement for an
A metal
entire
album?
genre,
Yeah.
not even a minor genre,
Yeah.
a major genre, then that's kind of sad.
If I remember correctly, it is, but I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, so I'm glad they included it, but too low.
Yeah.
Yeah, too low. REM. This is a good album. It's an album that I expect to pander to the type of crowd that Rolling Stone gathers, and I don't really make plans with that. REM, Automatic for the People, 96, fair pick.
I haven't heard it,
Yeah,
so.
it's a good album. It's a
Fair.
good album. 96 is reasonable. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's a fun listen. It has some solid writing on it, some interesting.
I like some of their
ideas,
hits,
but-
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole ton to dig into.
I assume
there,
it
so.
sounds like REM. And
It sounds like
pretty solid.
REM, and
Yeah.
it is their best album probably. So
Fair.
yeah, okay, keep going.
Take care.
Take care. Yeah, I mean,
This is kind of weird.
it's kind of weird. I wouldn't expect to see Rolling Stone put this here.
I mean, it kind of
Um,
makes sense.
It kind of makes sense. He is the most popular artist of the decade.
I mean, I kind of think 808s should be higher than it is instead of Take Care, but
Yeah, you're
it
right.
kinda, like,
808s is
fills
not.
that similar.
Yeah,
Like,
especially
need on the
considering.
list.
Yeah, especially considering that this is a list that is factoring in influence and probably pretty heavily too.
Yeah.
To not have 808s on here,
Well, they have
or
it
not
low,
okay,
that's
to
all.
not have it in the top 100. I think it's in the 300s or something like that.
Something like that.
And to have Take Care up this high is sort of weird.
Yeah.
Because Take Care essentially just takes all of the ideas that are presented on 808s and Man on the Moon, and puts them into
Repackages them.
yeah, puts them into Drake style. I do personally like Take Care more than both of those albums. I would argue that they are better. I enjoy Take Care. It's a fun album for me. I had a lot of good times to it, but yeah, it's too high.
Yeah.
It's definitely too high. Yeah.
But I think that it's almost like the placement that they wanted to give 808s, they just gave Take Care.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, it would have made way more sense. I would have said, yeah, if anything, if this was 808s in 95, I would say, yeah, if anything, I'd expect it to be higher just for influence, but fair enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, keep going. I don't know why I really thought that was songs about Jane, just from
That'd be
looking
weird.
at the bottom of
That'd
it.
be odd. That'd be an odd pick.
Yeah, I've heard the Stooges here and there. I don't have a strong opinion on this album, so just keep going. Uh, yeah. I don't really find any interest in Missy Elliott's music. It's okay. I think that she was sort of a trailblazer for her time in terms of female rappers, but it's just not for me. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. I do sort of think that they're just trying to be politically correct in this sense. I can see how people would be interested in this, but I don't know. I don't see anything about this album that is warranting of being this high on an all-time albums list. I think there are plenty of other records they could have gone with, especially if they wanted to gravitate maybe more towards newer female rappers.
Yeah, it'd been nice if we saw like No Name on
here.
here.
Yeah, if we saw No Name on here, yeah, I would have been happy to see Room 25 here. I would have thought that it was surprisingly high, but I would have had less of an issue with it.
Fair enough. I mean, I haven't heard this album, so
yeah,
I don't really know.
Yeah, so keep going.
I don't really love Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Jimi Hendrix. I think they have his sort of two major brand albums on this list, probably ahead of this. I am not very familiar with this. Is that a compilation album? That's sort of what it looks like to me.
It might be a compilation album.
Yeah, I know.
Which is dumb if it is.
Yeah, I did announce that we were going to do this video on Rap Thought World before Fantano put out a video about this topic.
Oh, so we're
now we're copying.
No, let's pretend like we recorded this first, so we made the point about compilations first.
Yeah, because I heard him make that point about compilations, which I think is a good point. I actually didn't really care for his video that much. I know you said that
right when I was talking about albums I knew. So.
Yeah, he wasn't really talking about anything all that specific. It would have been cool to see him do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if this is a compilation album. Maybe I'm just lacking in knowledge here, but
Fantano follows you now, so maybe he'll watch the video.
Yeah, so maybe he'll watch the video and tell me that I'm stupid. I don't know. But keep going. Sure. Yeah, not much to say here. Just Bruce Springsteen. Low 90s.
It's solid from what I've heard.
Reasonable, yeah.
I've only heard it like once or twice, but it's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's a good album. It's Bruce Springsteen. This is a really,
Yeah.
There's nothing to really. Yeah, this is a good album. I enjoyed it. I've only listened to it a couple times, but I can totally see that placement, but don't really have a ton to say about it. It's not one of my favorites, just something I'm really returning to a lot.
Sure.
The next one I find interesting, I guess not really rap as much as it is R&B, but I definitely think this is a better pick than the Missy Elliott album. I like Erykah Badu. I think that she has a great voice, a lot of charisma behind her. She's an interesting style. I don't think there's an Outkast album anywhere of this height. Actually, no, maybe there is, but
we'll see.
She can be sort of Andre's replacement since they're involved or whatever.
Fair enough.
Keep it going.
Well, I love this album.
Yes. I'll let you talk about Bowie.
I mean, I don't have like a ton to say. I mean, I love the album. I think that it's, I guess Ziggy Stardust more so, but this does predate it by like a year. Is sort of a defining moment of glam rock. So that's nice as a movement in the 70s of music. So I love this pick. I think they do have a couple Bowie albums higher than this.
Yeah.
I found their Bowie placement weird, and I guess I'll get to that when we get through them.
Sure.
But, yeah, don't have a ton to say about Hunky Dory. It's a fun listen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bitches Brew is my favorite jazz album.
And as a second album cover.
As a top 5 album cover ever. That is beautiful. This is an incredible album. I actually listened to it 2 days ago, I believe. Love it. Would have liked to see it be a number 1 jazz album. They definitely have other jazz albums ahead of this. But it's Miles Davis. It's an all-time classic. Being top 100, not surprising. If anything, I'd like to see it higher. But that's about it. Amazing album.
Fair. Door self-titled.
The Door self-titled is great. It's such an interesting listen.
They're weird.
They are weird. They're a strange
like
band. This is definitely their defining moment. Jim Morrison is such an interesting character.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good hits on this record. Good deep cuts too. It's just pretty solid all throughout. Actually, would probably put this higher myself. Fair. So seeing this up this high is pretty cool.
Nice. It's alright.
It's
alright.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not a big John Lennon solo guy. I think that you've listened to his solo stuff to a greater degree than I have, but I've never really found too much interest in it.
I think he's got some solid stuff. I think he like went off in a weirder direction, trying to.
I think his head was in a weird space.
His head was in a weird space.
Yeah.
He was trying to get political at some points that sometimes landed, sometimes didn't.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I like John Lennon overall.
I'm not gonna be surprised about Rolling Stone putting any Beatles related stuff highly, but nah, wouldn't be a top 100 for me.
AC/DC, your favorite.
Yeah,
your favorite.
I like
your
AC/DC
favorite?
for some very specific memories I have to a couple of their songs. I'm not going to get into, but
I mean, they're a fun band.
They're a fun band.
They don't have tons of songs.
I think this is like a top 10 highest selling album ever.
Is it really?
If I remember right. Yeah, I think this is one of those real heavy hitters on the Billboard there. But
this one has like a ton of hits on it.
It has a ton of hits, yeah. I don't remember which of the major AC/DC hits are on it. It's been a long time since I've listened to this all the way through, but I'm not surprised to see it there. I don't think that they've really done anything, especially writing-wise, that would warrant being placed this high.
No.
They're kind of just, I don't know,
I do think
energized rock that's pretty stripped down and doesn't really have anything to give it a strong identity or anything of that sort. They're fine.
Fair.
But no, top 100, can't see it. Yeah, I mean, I listened to this once, and I don't even know if I made it all the way through. It wasn't really for me, so that's about it. I haven't listened to this one, so
I'm not. I just assume I haven't listened to the albums if I don't say anything.
Yeah. I remember when I went to do a best bands bracket on the page. I was trying to think of older bands, and Dad recommended this to me, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't even heard that band, so I don't think that most of my followers have, and they're not going to get anywhere on the bracket, so there's not much point of including them.
Fair enough.
I'm sure I pissed off the 3 Sly and Family Stone people who have
they have
listening to this. Yeah, I guess,
yeah,
but all 3 of them. Okay.
I'm sorry, Sly and Family Stone fans.
Yeah.
We all the love for you. We just don't have anything we're listening to.
Yeah. Beyonce, self-titled. I am not a fan of Beyonce's music in the least. I don't care for it at all. It's just over glorified pop music to me. I think that she did improve a good bit with Lemonade. I don't like it as much as most people seem to on the internet, but it's still significantly better. I don't see any reason for Beyonce self-titled to be in a top 100 albums list from any sort of respected publication. I just don't get it.
I have not listened to this album all the way through, but I will say I hate the Sex Pistols.
Yeah,
I really don't. I couldn't listen to this album.
Yeah, I think that this album is pretty influential. I think it had sort of its defining moment in that.
They are a punk,
British,
like classic, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not that good of an album.
I feel like a lot.
It's not. It's pretty overrated.
I feel like a lot more punk music has a lot more to say than the Sex Pistols, at least from what I've heard.
Yeah, the Sex Pistols, they don't really go into any of that sort of political angst, that resentment of the structures that seem to be crushing down on you as a
and I think that's definitely the most appealing part of punk music.
And the really aggressive and just fuck you in your face type of instrumentals that I like in punk music. I want to be attacked almost when I'm listening to it. I want abrasive sounds, and I don't think the Sex Pistols really have that. They're just kind of tame in every way. It's just not for me.
Speaking of abrasive political music, if I remember correctly, I was upset about their placement of Rage Against the Machine self-titled, and I'm not sure we're going to see it in this
I don't think
episode,
it's in the top 100, which is sad. I don't see much argument for putting something like this over Rage Against the Machine self-titled. I think that's really one of the best moments for political, rebellious music.
Absolutely.
That album is consistent all the way through. The vocal performance is incredible. All the songs on it are great. It's such a classic. It has a phenomenal album cover. Speaking of album covers, that adds a lot of weight to the subject matter that it's talking about.
And even from an instrumentation perspective, Tom Morello's fantastic.
Phenomenal, of course. I would feel bad if I excluded Rage Against the Machine self-titled from my top 50.
Fair. So.
Yeah, that's about how I feel.
My opinion on aggressive albums being in the top 100 is that there should be more Rage Against the Machine.
Pretty much.
We have Blonde.
Blonde. Yeah, that's
probably
probably.
here.
I like Blonde. I like Blonde here. I think this is a
but-
good placement for it. I'd probably put it a little higher, but I don't hate this pick.
No.
I think it's nice to see Rolling Stone recognizing someone like Frank Ocean.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of other major publications had this album rated insanely high on their decades list. I think it's the number 1 on Pitchfork's list, if I remember it correctly.
It's a fantastic
It's
album.
a fantastic album. It strikes a chord with pretty much everyone who listens to it. It's really accessible. I think that the production is just great all around.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's really forward thinking or anything new, but it fits very much
does
to
it all
what
very
Frank's
well.
trying to do. I think that he's one of the better vocalists of our lifetime. The conceptuality on the album is great. Some of the standout tracks are some of the more memorable and emotional tracks of the 2010s. So happy to see Blonde here. I think that anyone watching this video is probably a fan of Blonde.
Yeah.
Because they're under 30 most likely, and therefore like Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
But
It's a top,
Yeah.
It's a top 4 album of 2016.
yeah,
Which, for whatever reason,
top
is
4.
high praise.
That is high praise.
It's high praise?
2016 is
Stacked.
This is now some sort of controversial argument that I've been seeing lately, but I think 2016 is the best year for music of the decade.
I mean, it's
Especially
kinda nuts.
if we're taking depth into account.
Yeah.
But yeah, top 4. What do you have above it? Black Star, Trust the Exhibition.
Moonshaped Pool.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I can see that. Sure. Moonshaped Pool versus Blonde is pretty much a toss-up to me, but I would also take those 2 over it, so
Fair.
we're on the same page there. Elvis Presley, Sun Collection.
Because it's a collection, apparently, unless I'm wrong and he just named it that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't listen to a whole ton of Elvis.
Yeah, I
Not
don't either.
gonna try to put up any front. I don't really think he does that much. I know Dad had the quote that pisses off Mom's side of the family because they all love him. That Elvis was to the 50s what Madonna was to the 80s. I think that's pretty spot on. I think that he is sex appeal and a pretty voice, but all of the things about him that are new and interesting for their time is just because that time was so fucking conservative.
Yeah.
It's not because anything about his music is particularly great or unique or challenging. It's just that the 50s were fucking boring. So
Yeah, he had minimal sex appeal, and therefore he broke all the
he
boundaries.
broke all the rules. Yeah, this dude shook his hips on TV. Now we have girls in fucking thongs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I am not surprised to see Rolling Stone put an Elvis
I
record
just
up
don't
this
like
high.
it.
I think when they did their top artists of all time, they had him at like 3 or something.
I don't like it, but
I'm pretty sure they did.
it's
But
to be expected.
yeah, whatever. The Who, Who's Next?
I love Who's Next.
Yeah, Who's Next is a great album.
Who's Next is fantastic.
Not surprised to see the publication put them here, and it's a good pick.
I think this is a fine
It's a good
placement
pick.
too.
It's a good placement.
I
Yeah,
think it's a fine placement.
nothing really wrong with that.
See, what
It's
I
a
think-
good album.
what's
It's
interesting about this
consistent.
I've heard it was supposed to be a concept album, and then they just kind of had to get it done before.
Yeah,
there's
the
like
Who
a
kinda does
little
that
bit of
because-
concept, but like it doesn't like fully flesh
Yeah,
out.
because they do the rock operas
Yeah.
where you have Tommy and Quadrophenia, which are both great, and I don't know if they are up here. They're probably better as a whole than Who's Next. It's
Who's
sort
Next
of
has
that.
hits, though.
Yeah.
Who's
I know,
Next
I
has
know.
hits.
It is definitely their defining moment, but it just depends on if you're looking at that consistent, strong track list versus more of an overarching concept that is well done. But either way, happy to see that there.
Very fair.
So let's get the next few albums up on the screen. Curtis Mayfield, Superfly. Just meh. That's my only take on that. Aretha Franklin, Lady Soul. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised to see her there.
Yeah.
She is an amazing vocalist.
Absolutely.
I don't really spend much time listening to her, but
Not
sure.
really.
But
Yeah,
sure.
I'm fine with
Yeah.
Aretha Franklin.
College
Dropout.
This is a crisp take right here. This is just a decent take.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
it's not my favorite Kanye album. I generally think it's overrated in the Kanye discography, but the Kanye discography is pretty damn good, so
It is
having
actually-
it here isn't a problem to me. If you are factoring influence in here, though, sorry, I just cut you off. So
I was about to go there.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you are factoring in influence, though, as much as I prefer Late Registration, this was definitely the more important record to the progression of rap in that it did a lot to sort of kill that gangster bling trend that was pervasive for a long period of time. So, yeah, not surprised to see that there.
Absolutely.
But
speaking of taking an influence,
yeah.
Since they do take an influence, I'm very happy they put Loveless.
Yeah, I'm happy they put Loveless too. I like Loveless. I know I've called it overrated a billion times, but I still like it
as well.
It's
I like
overrated,
it,
but I still like it.
Influential.
It's very influential. It's genre defining even.
See, but here's my problem. If we're going under the assumption that
they've heard albums that are more RYM core.
No, that Master of Puppets is the highest rated metal album, which I'm not sure on. But if that's the case, if we're talking about like representing a genre, or like defining moments within a genre, I would have preferred a little more representation for that genre. I prefer metal to shoegaze, but
I probably do too, and I definitely prefer Master of Puppets to Loveless.
Yeah,
which will probably piss a bunch of people off, but.
Master of Puppets is fantastic.
Master of Puppets is so goddamn
good. So good.
It doesn't have a bad song on it. It has multiple great songs on it, some that are defining moments for an entire genre.
Absolutely.
It is so good.
It's fairly well written.
Yeah.
Instrumentals are great.
It's
I love Master of Puppets.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice set.
More Neil Young. I am a little surprised to see this one over Gold Rush, but yeah, sure. Again, I'm not super interested in Neil Young. I don't want to go deep into this. Bob Marley, I think this is definitely taking into account influence to a good extent. I am not really a fan of Bob Marley's. The music just doesn't resonate with me all that much. It's fun, it's chill, it's relaxing. It has its place and its moment, but it's not my favorite thing. But I'm not surprised to see it here, and I don't really hate the pick. I'm not going to chastise them for putting that.
Fair. N.W.A. Let's
hear it. Content.
Yeah. Mr. Rap Fall World, please give us your hot takes.
Yeah. So, probably the most overrated rap album of all time.
It's absolutely influential.
It's absolutely influential.
Putting it here.
It had its spotlight. It did a lot for.
It's not something I really want to go back to.
Yeah, social progression of music in the genre. I get it. It is just not that great musically. The beats are so stale and outdated. I don't like G-Funk in the least.
I actually like some G-Funk, and I just don't really like this album.
Sure, which is fair. As much as I don't really like G-Funk, this isn't even good G-Funk.
I could go back to Doggy Style.
If they put Doggy Style here, I would have much less complaint.
I mean, Doggy Style would make a little less sense.
It would make less sense because it's less influential, sure, but
I do prefer
if they put that as the representative and we sort of understood that it was the quality over influence argument there, that would be cool. Nothing about this album really appeals to me. It's a chore to try to revisit. I
mean, some of the songs the bigger songs are a little catchy, but
some of the beats are all right, but no, I don't want to go on a huge rant about it.
Let's move
on. Jagged Little Pill. It's a good record. I wouldn't put it this high, but it hit that 90s niche. Sure. Well, but we clearly want to move on.
We gotta go coming up. We gotta go coming up.
Yeah, Kate Bush.
House Love. Let's go.
It's fucking amazing.
It should be higher.
It's such a good record.
It should be higher.
It's just because it is Rolling Stone, so I'm happy they even put it this high.
It's great that they put it. It's so good.
It's so goddamn good. She's one of the best vocalists ever. This is some of the best writing. She did pretty much the entire album by herself.
It's not. She does all the production.
Yeah, this is one of the greatest individual performances in terms of what they put into one piece of work ever, and probably all of art. It's so good. I have it in my top 20. I don't see it leaving that placement at any time soon. Is it the best album of the 80s?
I mean, from what I've heard, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's that versus, Remain in Light, maybe The Queen is Dead.
I think it's that versus Remain in Light, Queen is Dead. maybe hot take, Master of Puppets. Still angry.
Big Master
still
Puppets
angry.
guy, yeah. I would take those three over
No,
Master
I
of
take
Puppets,
Hounds of Love one.
but yeah, Hounds of Love is incredible. I'm glad to see it get some sort of recognition. I just wish it was higher.
Absolutely.
It's so good. Damn, I remember listening to it, and I did have a lower bar for tens. This isn't the iteration where I have 4 tens. This was when I
This
had
was
a
when we had
handful.
decent tens.
Yeah, the
tens.
whole that scale.
The dark ages of rap thought world.
Yeah. I listened to it for the first time, and as soon as her voice kicked in, I immediately texted you and said this album's going to be a 10. I said this album is absolutely going to be a 10. I can tell already just from her presence and the selection of the production on this song that this is going to be a 10.
And then this was back when I actually listened to her recommendations, and then I
And
was
you
like,
listened
then
to
I
it.
listened to it, I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah. When you listen to my recommendations, which you always like,
Yes. Always.
you're listening to East for the first time now. I think it's the only
fantastic.
thing you're listening to.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But but then you hear her presence and like
Yeah.
it's still fantastic with more simple writing and something like Running Up That Hill,
Yeah.
and you're immediately drawn in.
Yeah.
And then when you sort of listen to the album more and more, and you go deeper into like the second half, the ninth wave, I think it's called.
Yep.
And then you sort of get the whole idea of the
Her
album.
internal conflict, yeah. It is great.
It is one of the.
Hounds of Love is amazing. I would have loved to see them put this higher. It would have improved my opinion of Rolling Stones' publication to just see this album in their top 20 or 30.
Absolutely.
But let's not just do a Hounds of Love video.
Let's do a Hounds of Love.
We should do a Hounds of Love video. at some
Let's do a
point,
Hounds of
but-
Love video.
Yeah. Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. I adore this album. It is so fucking good. I listen to this album all the time. It is a top 5 90s rap album. It is in my top 5 overall favorite rap albums. It's just incredible. Feeling It is my favorite Jay-Z song. Dead Presidents 2 is probably the best Jay-Z song. One of the better rap songs in general to me. I'd probably put it in my top 15 or so. I think the way that he explores what are generally core tenets of hip-hop, especially for the time, but in an interesting way, is great. It's one of the most classic beats you'll ever hear. The second that kicks in. Yeah, the second that kicks in, having a Biggie feature, seeing them go back-to-back is amazing. Yeah, it just has everything. It's consistently great all the way through. There isn't a song in this album I don't like. I love it to death, and I'm just going to keep
Standing.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep standing Reasonable Doubt. It's the best Jay-Z album, and I wish it was higher. Honestly, it would probably be higher for me.
Fair enough.
I love it.
Not as big of a Jay-Z guy as you, but fair enough. Love Supreme. I mean, you got this. You got this one on your wall.
I do. I have this on vinyl. This is a great album. I have no complaints with this pick. I tend to just not really rate jazz just because I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable enough to talk about it in any sort of meaningful way. But, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty consensus top 5 jazz album ever. I think this is their highest rated one in this list. But, sure, that's a good pick. I have no complaints there. Being at 66, that is fine. Great record. Definitely deserves a placement.
Do they not have Kind of Blue higher?
I don't know.
No.
But
Well,
I guess
we'll
we'll
see.
see. James Brown. Yeah, I mean, especially from the influence vein, I'm not surprised to see him here. His music doesn't do a whole ton for me. I don't know how I feel about live albums being included.
It
Although,
depends on
I would want to
some
put
live
that.
albums
I would
have-
want to put that Fishman's album on here somewhere, but yeah, sure.
Nah.
Keep going.
Stanconia's fun.
Stanconia's great. It's a good album. Yeah, I love it. Stanconia is. It is not my favorite Outkast album, but I see.
Oh, we were thinking, do they have Outkast on?
Oh
here?
yeah, they do.
Okay.
I do think they have Aquemini up higher.
I
too.
would hope so.
I think so.
'Cause I think it's
I think I remember.
better album.
Yeah, I think I remembered seeing after Aquemini if they were going to choose ATLians or Stanconia, because that seems to be more the debate that I've seen recently.
Interesting.
It's sort of shifted from Aquemini versus ATLians to ATLians versus Stanconia.
For number 2 or just
For number 2, yeah. Aquemini is at this point I think is a pretty firm best of their catalog. It is their best album.
Yeah.
Stanconia is amazing. I love a lot of the joints on there, even some of the weird ones. But great album.
Very fair. I love Stanconia too. I love Outkast. I
Outkast
think
generally is
this. I think this is where I scare off your followers.
Yeah, that's fine.
I love this album,
No, I think
fantastic.
this album's pretty in vogue lately in the sort of nerdy internet.
I remember you showed me like
community.
one review where like they gave it a 2, and I was like, oh, I love this album.
Yeah, I mean, I like it.
I mean,
I
if
think
you
it's a
like
good album.
if you look at like the instrumentation, like that's all fantastic. The production, like Steely Dan's production, is just always great.
Yeah.
I think some of like the content they cover on this album, like Deacon Blues, is really interesting. This
Yeah, it
idea
is.
of like looking at the winners of society and just sort of like wallowing in like self pity.
Yeah,
It's
it is
pretty interesting.
Yeah. They're a duo too, right? Am I right? It's Walter Becker or
Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. It's Walter Becker and Donald Fagen are Steely Dan. They're the only consistent members of Steely Dan. They bring in people, just random people, tons
Yeah.
of people. Like I think Toto was originally just random Steely Dan members who just went off.
Interesting.
Like
Okay.
there's a bunch of bands that are just former Steely Dan members.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do a lot for just making up people to
Sure.
become musicians. But I love this album. It's consistent
It's a good
all the way
album.
through. It's just a nice listen, and I think there are some interesting ideas covered on it.
Sure.
I love Asia.
I personally wouldn't put it up this high, but I don't have a problem with it.
Asia?
I'm
No,
not-
I wouldn't either.
I'm not gonna.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
You're singing his praises.
Oh, I love the
to
album.
no end.
All right, cool. Let's keep going. Appetite for Destruction.
I think we are sort of running a little long, so we should
Uh,
ramp it up a little
yeah,
bit.
I should.
But Appetite for Destruction, not surprised to see it here.
I don't really like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses is sort of similar to AC/DC in that they're that aggressive rock style, but they don't really offer anything unique or all that interesting to me. I do much prefer this album to Black on Black, though. Or
Sure.
Back in Black. It's a good album. It has a lot of all-time classic rock songs on it. I'm not surprised to see it here. It probably is one of the best-selling albums ever, too. I don't know
Probably.
if that's the case.
It
but
just has some other hits.
yeah, I'm not going to complain about that. But I will complain about the next
Okay.
one. Fuck Paid in Full. Fuck Paid in Full. I'll get any old head hating on me for this, I'm sure, but I
Fuck you, Mark.
just don't find any interest in it. I understand that it's foundational to the development of rap and that Rakim is sort of building new techniques through this album and a lot of his catalog, and a lot of credit to him for doing so, but going back and revisiting it 30 plus years later, I am not getting anything from it that I'm not getting to a greater extent on just newer albums, because I do think that there is this huge peak of innovation in rap that takes place between the time that this is released and sort of the early to mid 90s, around the time you get those top tier classics, the Illmatic's Ready to Die, as the Tupac releases, even Reasonable Doubt, as much as I love. And it sounds so dated. It sounds like it's from a different millennia, or it is from a different millennia and a different century.
Wow.
But it sounds like it's 50 years old. I take no interest in it. I wouldn't put it that high. They are putting it there for influence, which I understand because they're Rolling Stone, but no.
We say we have to speed up.
Just no.
You got a 10.
Yeah,
You don't like.
Yeah, okay, keep going. You know what? I'll keep this one brief, even though I really like this album. Astral Weeks is an amazing record. It definitely deserves to be up really high. You can't see because there's no video, but I'm like fist shaking to this.
Yes.
Great album. Deserves to be this high, if not higher. Yeah, I think that everyone pretty much has their opinion formed on this in the community, so I'm not going to really delve into it, but it's great. I don't know if you've listened to it, but you should if you haven't. It's an all-time classic, sort of folk singer-songwriter type album, and it's good. Stevie Wonder, Talking Book, sort of doesn't do a whole ton to me. I don't know if they have some of his more acclaimed albums placed higher.
Oh, they do.
They do?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but
Songs in the Key of Life, I think, is pretty epic. Wait,
Is
am I
it?
thinking of the wrong person? That is Stevie
no,
Wonder,
that
right?
is, yeah.
I think it's pretty high on here.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I understand the placement. Obviously a great singer, but not for me.
Fair. I don't know why they have this list that's untitled.
That's
This is
very
very titled.
Yeah, that's so titled.
So titled.
Very clearly Led Zeppelin 4.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin 4 is great. It's an all-time classic rock album. I do think it's overrated.
I'm just not a big Led Zeppelin guy.
Really?
No, did you not know that? I like them.
Probably did know
I
that.
like them. I just don't think they're writing.
It's the rating. It's the rating. It's that meme that I've reposted on Rap Thought World a billion times where their lyrics are either
hobbits and shit, sex, or
citrus.
Yeah, citrus.
Just a very small extent.
Small amounts of
They write about complete nonsense.
I think Stairway to Heaven is alright written.
I feel like the reason Stairway to Heaven is so highly acclaimed is because people subconsciously picked up on, holy shit, they wrote about something that isn't
hobbits, sex, or citrus.
Yeah, that isn't complete nonsense.
Yeah.
And that's why it is the best Led Zeppelin song. Cold take, and I guess I'll get called a normie or whatever, but yeah, they wrote about something that was interesting, and all of their members gave one of their best performances. That is on this album, which helps it out. Has some of their other best tracks on here. One of the best Zeppelin albums, but yeah, it wouldn't be this high up for me in terms of everything.
I certainly wouldn't have it this high.
Yeah, no. But even on like RYM and stuff like that, it is rated up really high, which is more surprising to me than seeing Rolling Stone have it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those all-time classics in rock. Sure. It's on the Mount Rushmore of like rock classics.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised it's not higher.
Yeah, fair.
But I guess I'm glad it's this low.
Sure, yeah, I guess that's the conclusion. The band, self-titled, good. Not surprised at the tier. Wouldn't be this high for me, but reasonable pick. Moving on. Don't know what this is.
I don't know.
Just straight up. Don't know what this is, so
gotta
move on.
Can I say about this next album?
Sure.
Fuck people who are just like, oh, Dark Side sucks. It's bad.
It's too
good.
Iconic.
Yeah. It's just good.
It's a good album. Good album. You're being a contrarian if you're like, yeah, this is a 4 out of 10. You're being a contrarian. I don't see that. It's the second best-selling album of all time, but it is sort of that peak of accessibility as well as quality.
Yeah.
That's really hard for musicians to get. I think that this and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy are sort of the two pillars of different eras where artists were able to achieve that. Both of them are more of a low 9 to me than an all-time amazing, perfect piece of work. But yeah, Dark Side is great.
Dark Side's great.
I don't see how you listen to Dark Side and say this is boring. People saying it's not prog, I guess, but like, who cares?
What?
Yeah,
I'm sad it's not higher. Like, maybe I'd put 54 albums above it. Like,
yeah,
maybe, but I'm sad because I know they're not gonna put the right 54 albums. So I'm sad that it's not higher.
Yeah,
because I love Dark Side.
Because you know that if Rolling Stone put this in their top 10, no one would bat an eye.
Absolutely not.
No one would bat an eye. If anyone puts this in their top 10, no one's gonna bat an eye.
Nope.
I'm curious, is this their highest rated Pink Floyd album? That's what I want to see. But I don't think it is.
Really?
I think they have The Wall really high, but let's find out.
Well, fuck you, Mark. The Wall's fantastic.
Yeah, my opinions on James Brown haven't changed since the last entry. Electric Ladyland.
That's not the album cover.
Yeah. I guess we have an explicit video now, but
Oh no.
Electric Ladyland is my favorite Jimi Hendrix album. I think that he was at the peak of his style, of his charisma, of his unique vocals, I would say.
He does have unique vocals.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Jimi Hendrix fan either.
It's sort of a patient vocal delivery that I really appreciate about Hendrix. Obviously, the guitar goes without really needing to discuss.
Yeah.
I think it's his most consistent album, and it has the strongest identity, so I love it. I have no problem with it being here. This is probably about where I would put it, too.
Fair enough.
Station to Station.
Station to
Give
Station
you the
is
reins.
fantastic.
Station to Station is great.
It's just like, it's so weird because it's one of these peaks of Bowie's discography, but he also didn't remember making it.
Yeah.
He was so strung out on coke while making this album.
Which is amazing.
It's nuts that he made this album, and it's so well written, especially the title track.
Which is his best song and one of the best songs ever made.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm amazed that he made it while so fucked up, but that's... I hate to say this kind of thing, but that's part of what makes it good.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of about that.
And
it's
sort of
always
about
this...
the dread and self-awareness of that cycle he's in.
Yeah, and I think there's, even on some of the more lighthearted songs on the album, I think there always is that pervading sense of dread on this album that does sort of link it into a cohesive project, even though some of the songs don't really relate, like TVC 1.5 is mostly nonsense.
Sure.
But there's always just this weird atmosphere that links it all together. I love Bowie. I love Station to Station. I think this is their second best Bowie album on here, which is totally fine.
I love
Yeah,
Station to Station.
it probably
is. Is it a second?
I-
It's top 3. It's top 3.
I agree. It's top 3.
We'll call it a day. Let's
Yeah.
keep going.
I love Station to Station.
Because we're now probably...
We're like 40 minutes.
We're like 40 minutes in, and we're
We're not doing well on time.
Yeah, so this will probably stay at just the top 100.
Fair.
I think
unless
we'll
you
do
want,
that.
unless you want to like
Maybe we can do like a
rapid
follow-up
fire.
video or something.
Fair.
But
If people like this, we can do a follow up.
sure.
How's that?
Jay-Z, The Blueprint.
You're skipping Chuck Berry.
Oh shit! Yeah. Similarly to my feelings on Elvis Presley, a little different.
I prefer Chuck Berry though.
I prefer Chuck Berry as well. I think that he had much more influence stylistically to the development of rock than Elvis, who was more of a popularization tool. But yeah, I mean, Chuck Berry he's very influential, historically important, but he's not something that I'm really listening to all the time, or
Fair.
that I think has stood the test of time all that well in terms of quality compared to more just new records.
Very fair.
That are built on, yes, his ideas, but I think in a better way. So I wouldn't put it this high, but again, if you're factoring in
Entertainment
influence
is
and,
fine.
and your Rolling Stone, sure. And here's a quote I.
Now we have to talk about fuck. We have to talk about Blueprint.
Blueprint
You want to
is
talk about Blueprint.
Blueprint is my third favorite Jay-Z record. As I said, I prefer Reasonable Doubt and 4 for 4. I think 4 for 4 is probably the peak of his writing. Blueprint, the Kanye production is amazing.
Obviously.
Yeah, just Heart of the City. Like it's a great album. It has a lot of really important, memorable moments for hip hop. You have the Renegade track with Eminem on here, which is great. Any Eminem praise I'll get hate for, but yeah, it's great. Album overall, great. No problem with it being here. I prefer other Jay-Z albums and other 2000s rap albums to it. So
Not necessarily a bad pick.
yeah,
but it's-
I honestly, and I'll dig myself a further hole with the Eminem praise, I would have rather seen Mathers LP here. I think it was
Did
more...
they exclude him completely?
I don't know if they exclude him. I don't think it's in the top 100, but I think Mathers LP was a much more significant record. I think it really changed the landscape of not rap stylistically. I don't think Eminem's all that stylistically influential, but the perception of rap and sort of the perception of music at the time.
See, he does.
Which I don't think the
I think
Blueprint
Eminem
really
does
did.
make a comparison between himself and Elvis, and I think that is fair.
That is pretty fair. So I think that would have
I
made
think
more
he's a better
sense.
writer.
Honestly, if anything, I think if they're fading Eminem, it's just because that record is pretty problematic.
It's very problematic, and it very much goes after critics.
Yeah, he pretty much says fuck Rolling Stone and also fuck a lot of protected groups that he shouldn't be attacking.
That's kind of what he does. But
That's kind of what he does, but still, I think that the album was more significant and makes more sense to be here than the Blueprint, but I'm sure probably most people disagree with me there, so.
there's a weird amount of Eminem hate. I mean, I think it's mostly because of recent stuff. I don't really get hating on Mathers LP or Eminem Show. They aren't the best, but they're fun.
Yeah, I think for their time, not for their time in terms of they've been outcompeted, but for their time culturally, they were really great, and they had a huge place in the landscape of hip-hop as it developed. I think they're all pretty good records in general. I do think Mathers LP is significantly better than sort of the other two in his pantheon of 3 classics there.
Fair.
But yeah, that's why I think it should be there. But
now in a rap album that should
That
definitely
should
be over the Marshall Mathers
It should
LP.
absolutely be over the Marshall Mathers LP and pretty much every rap album
Most
because this
of
is
them,
a
yeah.
top 5, 7.
This album is fantastic.
This is an amazing album. The second half is definitely weaker.
It's
than the
definitely
first half.
weaker, but it's still pretty good.
It's still pretty good.
I think
Andre's style and personality, his flair, is just
Oh,
off the charts
absolutely.
here. One of the best performances I've ever seen anyone give on a record in general.
very fair.
His
So I
rapping
think-
style, lyricism.
I think some of his persona does come out a lot in the second half.
Yeah, that's
So
that's
I
sort
do-
of what I was getting at.
Yeah, I do enjoy it still.
Yeah.
Even in the weaker second half. My only real problem with this album is Mamacita. That
drum
scene
is that good. Is that good? Yeah.
I skip it. It's a skip. I rarely skip.
Yeah, it's a skip. Yeah, you don't skip. You just listen to the damn album, which I appreciate. But
all the way through every time.
But it has so many great songs on it.
It does.
Return to the G is amazing.
Oh, Andre's on Return to the G.
Yeah.
See, so what's gonna happen while we talk about this album is you're gonna say song, and I'm gonna say Andre's verse on that song.
Yeah. Rosa Parks. We have
Andre's verse on this.
We have all our personal memes together with that song.
Actually,
I think that's how I got you to listen to rap.
There's a good chance.
I think that is sort of how I got you into
that might have
the
been my
genre.
first rap song.
Yeah.
So I have a special place in my heart for Rosa Parks. I actually think the verses are pretty consistent on that song. I don't think Andre dominates as much.
Yeah, that's
as
fair.
he normally does. Dark Storytelling Part 1, though, he does.
He dominates, but it's a top 5 rap song. I think that's fair. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great song. I don't think that anyone will really disagree with that all too much. But
It's like Andre has like one of the best verses ever conceptually on that song, and then he has one of the best ever technically on Gemini. The title track.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the title track, but that might be my pick for best technical rap verse, all things considered. While I think that others have maybe a better rhyme scheme,
His flow.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's the
flow.
flow. His flow on that
Oh my
is
God.
pretty much unbeatable throughout all of rap. It's perfect. Listening to that song is always a treat, and you're just brimming with excitement for that verse to come on. Sometimes those are 20 seconds. I know. I wish it was longer, but yeah, Aquemini is amazing. If anything, it should be higher. But good on them for putting it there.
Good on them for putting it there. It absolutely should be higher. But
Keep going.
Let's hear more about your Bob Marley takes.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the Bob Marley album to put if you're going to put one, but my feelings don't really change from the last time we talked about him, so we won't spend too much time here unless you want to.
No, I don't have much to say about Bob Marley. I think you hate the Ramones.
I do hate the Ramones. I hate the Ramones. Similar to my feelings about the Sex Pistols, I think that for whatever reason, these really stripped down and boring punk outfits get all of the attention in the genre, and they shouldn't. The Ramones are too poppy to be what punk represents, and this album sort of becomes the flagship album of punk in a lot of ways, and I just don't see why. I don't like the Ramones.
It's a lot of their image.
I
I like the Ramones more than you do. I prefer them to the Sex Pistols, mostly because they're more poppy, so if I'm going to listen to, like, not really that meaningful music in the genre, I'd rather listen to the Ramones than the Sex Pistols.
Sure.
But
I
don't think it should be this high. I certainly don't think it should be over Aquemini.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true.
Especially if we're talking about, like, it's not, like, different, like, social things and analyzing them. Absolutely
does a
should
much
be
better
over
job,
Aquemini.
yeah.
That's insane.
I don't see why he put something like this over, like, let's say, Black Flag, or the Dead Kennedys, or other really classic punk groups that do a much better job in everything that represents the genre and everything that represents the development of music than the Ramones do. I just don't understand the pick. I don't understand why this is a common pick in general. Fuck this album, honestly. Yeah.
This gets the fuck this album.
Fuck this album. Paul Simon Graceland it's really good. It's a good album. Paul Simon's a great writer. I know a lot of classic rock critics will sort of say he's the second to Bob Dylan in terms of songwriters. I don't think that.
I think that's mostly because of he's earlier than maybe some of the songwriters you'd put on more popular.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't have a problem with that album being there. It wouldn't be that high up for me, but sure.
Yeah.
Keep going. Great, Sign of the Times. How do you think this compares to Purple Rain?
I've listened to this album like once.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I don't have a ton to say. I think, if I remember correctly, Purple Rain's a little more like poppy and you have more hits on it.
Yeah, and I think that Purple Rain's a little more top-heavy, and that I think that the hits really lead the album. I think this one's a little more consistent. Honestly, I would probably take this one over Purple Rain.
Fair. I don't love Purple Rain.
Yeah,
sorry, Dad.
Yeah, sorry, Dad. Our dad's favorite artist is Prince.
I don't love Purple Rain. I like a lot of the hits. I like 3 songs on it.
Yeah.
I like Let's Go Crazy, When Doves Cry, and Purple Rain, but other than that, I don't really like the album.
Fair enough.
I don't really like the album. So
Yeah, and give this one another listen. I think it's a little bit more consistent, but it doesn't really have as many all-time standouts like that. But
fair.
Sure. Moving on to
Nas-O-Matic?
what I'm more interested in. Yeah, Nas is Illmatic. This is What's interesting is in the traditional sort of vanguard of hip hop, this is the least controversial album ever, and it is number one everywhere. I think until To Pimp a Butterfly started gaining a little bit more steam in major publications. I remember a few years ago I was able to do this. You can search best rap album of all time on Google, and it will take you 3 pages before you find something that doesn't have this number one.
And to be honest,
It's-
that's kind of fair.
Which, yeah,
This
I
album's
don't see the
fantastic.
hate for it. All of the hate for it comes from the fact that it's bland, I guess.
It's not even bland.
I don't think so. I think that you do have this idea in music where there are innovators and then people who execute well on those innovations. I definitely think that Illmatic falls into that category, executing on the innovations, rather than changing anything or pushing things forward. But it executes really well. It's consistent all the way through. One Time for Your Mind, maybe, is the only song that I don't think is all that great. But you have a handful of all-time gems in hip-hop. I think that putting Your State of Mind in your top 10, top 5 rap songs ever is completely fair.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I think Memory Lane is also amazing. Life's a Bitch is amazing.
Can we talk about AZ first?
Oh,
Just
so good. It Ain't Hard to Tell is one of my favorite technical rap songs ever.
I think that's fair.
Instagram page, AP Music Talk, went on a rant about how good It Ain't Hard to Tell is, and I started listening to it a bit more than I normally did after that, and I ended up agreeing with him. I fucking love that song, and I listen to it all the time still. It's constantly in my rotation, and one of my favorite 90s rap songs.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that Nas to a much lesser extent, but maybe it could be the case in your community that tends to hate on this album a little more, that his more recent releases might make his legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has its... I think that less so with Eminem, where I think that the more recent releases have clouded even the perspective of the older ones.
Yeah.
I think that there's just general hate for Illmatic in and of itself, which I don't get.
It's just so good.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
if you
the-
hate Illmatic, fair enough, but
I don't think it's fair enough.
Okay.
It's like a quintessential. It's like
It is.
fine.
It's a quintessential album. It's
Yeah,
not even
it's a
rap
quintessential
album.
I feel like it's the quintessential rap album, but then it's a quintessential album in being that.
Yeah.
And it's so well done. It's so consistent. Everything about it's great. I don't understand the hate for this album at all.
I don't see it. If we were gonna do sort of a most classic, not rap album, but album list, it should be in the top 10.
That's fair.
Yeah,
It's
so
fantastic.
It's just be there. I don't agree with. It feels like a little bit of a slap in the face to me. To see this just one spot above Illmatic immediately. Not that this record isn't great or that I don't understand the perspective, but I don't know. I don't see why. I think that instrumentally it feels a lot older than Illmatic. I think that maybe it's more progressive and interesting for its time than Illmatic is for its time, but yeah, it's nowhere near as consistent. It doesn't have the high points or those all-time hip-hop gems that Illmatic does. The rapping's not as consistently good. The lyricism isn't as good. The production's just not as good. It's just not as good. I don't have a problem with Low End Theory being here. It's probably my second favorite Tribe record, but not over Illmatic.
Fair.
OK Computer over Illmatic is reasonable.
Fair enough. I mean, I love OK Computer.
I love OK Computer
I
too.
think it's Radiohead's best. But
I think I'm on that train
Yeah?
as of late. Yeah, I think I'm on OK Computer as their best. I think Kid A is the most interesting. I think In Rainbow is the most enjoyable, but overall, it's probably OK Computer.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I wish it was higher, but I guess I can't complain of 42.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to make a new top 10 albums list, and I didn't have this in it, but I don't think it's far off. I think it's a top 20 album ever made. It's incredible. Everything about it is great.
I'm just like itching to be mad at what's placed above it.
Yeah.
Even the ones I like.
Fuck. Yeah, honestly,
Even the ones I like.
Seeing Let It Bleed, just one spot above OK Computer, just reminds me that this is still Rolling Stone. Just the lack of perspective that it shows to me. Like, the Rolling Stones are they're influential. They were very popular. They had a lot of flair and style and pop appeal. nothing about this record is better than anything about OK Computer. Nothing. It's to the extent where there might be 10 songs on OK Computer better than any song on Let It Bleed. Honestly, at least 5. I don't know if I want to go as far as to say 10, but there's at least 5. I mean, Paranoid Android,
Absolutely.
Paranoid Android, Exit Music. Paranoid Android all around is just leaps and bounds ahead of anything the Rolling Stones would have ever achieved. Exit Music vocally is godly. It's so immaculate.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Imagine how haunting it would have been if they used that for the actual exit music for that film.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of cool.
That would have been cool.
That'd be a great... See, it's called exit music for a film, and it would be so good exit music for a film.
Yeah. Let Down would be not even the best song on Let It Bleed, but the best Rolling Stones song if it was in their catalog.
Well, it's the best song on this album, so...
Hey.
I
don't really know what would be my picks for the 4th and 5th best song on this album, but...
The Tourist? Lucky?
Yeah,
My hot take
again, I guess
no
I'm a
surprises.
normie, but... No, I don't think that's a hot take. That's like their 3rd most popular song. I guess I'm a normie, but I probably would take Karma Place in my top 5. I am basic, and I fucking love Karma Place.
Karma Place is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's OK Computer is just better than Let It Bleed. I'm not surprised to see Let It Bleed this high, but just seeing it one spot over OK Computer pisses me off. Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy Stardust is so good. I don't think it's better than OK Computer, but it's like...
It's a reasonable pick to be better than it, though.
That's fair. I think it's pretty close. This album's pretty damn consistent. I think it does a lot of interesting things with like where Bowie sees himself in relation to the people who've inspired him and how he looks at going about inspiring other people. Especially on like the song Lady Stardust.
Yeah.
Which I can never remember his name. Do you know? You know Bang a Gong?
Wang Chen?
I think his name's Mark.
What?
The singer.
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyways,
Sorry.
I think it's T-Rex. Well, we have a computer right here.
That is fair.
Bang a Gong. Yeah, Mark Bolan.
That's
one.
Okay.
Mark Bolan. Lady Stardust is about Mark Bolan and how his image going up, being in sort of like the glam aesthetic, the makeup, everything inspired Bowie.
Yep.
And then, but in the context, the album is about like a fan of Ziggy Stardust looking at Ziggy Stardust, and I think it does this interesting thing where it's sort of Bowie trying to take who's influenced him and inspire other people, and how that ends with the big climax of sort of giving himself all up to it. I think it's fantastic. This album's great. One of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
I think my only problem with this album is the mixing.
Yeah, the mixing is a little shoddy, but it sort of works for what they're doing, I think.
Right. I mean, I hate criticizing the album, so
yeah.
I guess I'll be like, yeah, it works.
Yeah, sure, it works.
Totally works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it. 5 Years is probably my favorite Bowie song.
I'm 5 years, Station to Station. I like Rock and Roll Suicide a lot. I know it's not as highly rated, but I think maybe it's not necessarily like well written, but like in terms of who he is and what he's trying to do and the emotion he conveys through his vocal performance on that song is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, love it.
Okay, let's keep going because we're
We're
behind
over.
pace.
We are going
We're
so
behind
over.
pace. Remain in Light. This is probably one of the more praised in the Instagram community type of albums on this list. Yeah, I see no real issue with it being 39th. I think that it is probably the most innovative and ahead of its time album that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
If this came out today,
I still think it's innovative.
Yeah.
It's so
this album is
nuts.
crazy. It might be the best produced album ever, too.
I mean, that's fair.
Really just killed it on this. The style matches with the Talking Heads so well.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a whole performance that we do to Blow Under Punches that we just pull out on our family every now and then, like a whole dance to it.
You gotta take a look at these hands.
Yeah, gotta take a look at them. But yeah, this album's great. No problem with it being 39. Blonde on Blonde, 38. This made me sad because they had it 4th before. And it fell all the way to 38. And this is probably in my top 10. Bob Dylan is my favorite artist ever. And this is my favorite album by him.
Does it hurt to see what's about it?
Oh, fuck, you're right. Yeah, that
Does it hurt?
that physically pains me. I feel like I just got an organ removed. Shit. Yeah, so let's look at this. Let's compare these a little. So Dr. Dre, The Chronic. You have this album, which is pretty outdated sounding G-Funk, in my opinion, versus Blonde on Blonde, where the only real criticism that I would hear anyone make about Blonde on Blonde be that the style sounds outdated. It sounds less outdated than The Chronic, even though it's 30 years older. 25, but still. And let's compare the writing. It literally couldn't be further apart. It literally couldn't be further apart. You have probably top 3 best writing that I've ever heard on an album in Blonde on Blonde. Visions of Joanna is widely praised and considered by professional authors, poets, to be the best writing on a song ever. Versus The Chronic, where it just doesn't. It's a classic rap album and important, but all of these things that I'm saying about The Chronic and what it means to rap, Blonde on Blonde means to music as a whole. And it does so much more for it. Blonde on Blonde, in essence, you could even make the argument, is the first album that really executes fully on an artistic vision and concept for an album.
Trying to think of earlier ones. I'm
Yeah.
struggling. Is this 66?
Yes, it is.
Okay. No, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I think Bird's music log made that point to me, and I hadn't really thought of that before, but yeah, it really is. It sort of introduces the idea of a concept album, at least in the mainstream sphere that Dylan was in, and his audience, which was all of the people who would think about doing something like that.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. I think putting it 4 was one of the better Rolling Stone takes I've ever seen, so it's sad to see it drop to 38, and it's really sad to see The Chronic above it. That's a slap in the face to me. I'm personally offended.
See, I kind of wonder if
Fuck
them
Rolling
dropping
Stone.
it so far is them trying to break their image.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Be interesting.
yeah.
Well, you've talked about The Chronic now,
Yeah,
so I suppose we
let's
can
keep
move on.
going.
See,
Off the wall.
Yeah, people love Off the Wall. I mean, I just prefer Thriller.
I prefer
so-
Thriller too. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have much to say about it either. It's a Michael Jackson album. It's fun. Everybody has their opinion on it. We're not changing any minds or adding anything. So let's keep going.
Let's get to an album you love.
I love Rubber Soul. It's great. Someone asked me to do a Beatles discography ranking today, and I put it second. I love Rubber Soul.
I certainly disagree, but fair enough.
I think that it is probably their most consistent album with the strongest atmosphere and identity. I love it. I love the style that I think is reflected really well in the cover. A lot of the songs on here are just really great. And it's just such a detour for the Beatles for me, where they're in more of this folky...
This one came right after Help, right?
Yes. In the same year, actually. They're both 65.
That's interesting.
Yeah. 65 was a very big year for music in general. But it sounds like it was written in the woods. It has this very unique element to it, especially for the Beatles. It's less poppy than some of their other stuff. I thoroughly enjoy this album. I personally wouldn't put it 35th all time, but it's
For what they're
for
doing.
what they're doing.
Makes sense.
I'm happy to see it there.
I love In My Life.
Yeah. Oh, In My Life is super
I
great.
love
Nowhere
this song.
Man is super great.
I love Nowhere Man. But, like, In My Life's just so weird because it's this, like,
Norwegian Wood.
oddly melancholic yet wholesome song.
Yeah.
I love In My
Super
Life.
great.
Intervisions.
Intervisions. My opinion on Stevie Wonder hasn't changed. I hope I'm not making anyone sad that I'm not really covering these artists that maybe I don't talk about normally and now have the opportunity to, but I just don't have that much interest in Stevie Wonder. I've heard his music, but my opinion really just remains that he's a really good singer and influential, but doesn't do that much for me.
Fair enough.
I adore
You
Back
love
to
the song,
Black.
right?
Yeah, I love Back to Black. I think that she has an incredible voice in this, just like attraction in her music and just her as a person. I mean, I don't think it has anywhere near the writing or depth that I would normally need to put something this high, but for what it is, I'm not going to complain about this, mostly out of bias because I like it.
Are you going to complain now?
And because the title track is one of my favorite songs ever, probably. Beyonce Lemonade. I mean, it's expected. It's just expected, but it's weird to me. Look at the juxtaposition here. Beyonce Lemonade is next to Miles Davis Kind of Blue. How? Like, in what universe are those, out of all albums ever made, those are next to each other? Why? Like, what did she do on this album that deserves being next to Kind of Blue? I don't see it. I think that she evolved a lot as a songwriter on this album. I think it's a good album. I do. I genuinely think it's a good album. Definitely not in the bottom 10 or so that I've seen on this top 100. But I don't see it. I like the album. I think it has a lot of interesting musical ideas. I think she has a lot of passion in what she's singing about, bringing up all of the drama that's going on with her marriage here. Um, it's impressive to an extent, especially for Beyonce, who's someone that I really don't care for musically. Um, but yeah, that's about it. And then
Kind of Blue.
Kind of Blue, landmark jazz album, considered by a lot of people to be the best jazz album by probably the best jazz artists. Not surprised to see it here. Very much deserving. 31 seems like a fair placement to me. That's about it.
Fair enough. That
Are you experienced? I just wish they swapped this with Electric Ladyland. I like Electric Ladyland so much more. But
I think this
yeah,
has more hits.
it has more hits. It's reasonable. I have no complaints here. But I'd rather talk about the White Album.
Alright,
So
fuck you, Mark. This album's
Yeah,
amazing.
okay.
Fuck
Yeah,
you.
so
fuck you. This
you can-
album's fantastic.
you can tell me to go fuck myself, and everyone listening is gonna agree with you.
Oh, first time that's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's
Only
just
time.
it's a little too inconsistent for me.
Mark peaks over consistency.
Yeah, I
Mark.
know.
Peaks over
But
consistency.
with an album that's not really going in a specific direction with a concept where I can sort of forgive those inconsistencies because at least they're contributing to a greater whole.
I mean, fair enough, but it's just such a weird, bizarre album. I hate saying like for 1968, before 1968.
Yeah,
It's such a weird album. It has so many different ideas on it.
Yeah.
I think While My Guitar Gently Weeps is the best Beatles song.
Sure.
I think that's
Valid pick.
fantastic. It's just great.
I'm
all
not
the
gonna
way
complain
through.
about it being here.
If we're talking about influence, if you want to call Helter Skelter the first metal song, I think you can.
Yeah, I've heard that that agenda before.
But like some of the weirder songs, even like Revolution 9,
Yeah.
I like it.
It's fucked up.
It is fucked
It is
up.
cool.
Wild
Sure.
Honey Pie, love
Yeah.
it. And then I feel like there is a stretch where it is some consistent pop, like from maybe, I don't know, Piggies to Your Blues are all fairly enjoyable songs.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love this album. Fuck you, Mark.
Okay.
This album's great.
Well, you know what? We have a better album placed just above it. Voodoo by D'Angelo. I didn't see Black Messiah on here at all in the top 100. It's surprising to see such a gap between them. I assume it's on the list somewhere, but I have no problem with Voodoo being the pick for the best D'Angelo album. I probably agree, to be honest. I think that he was at the peak of his, I guess, swag, his charisma, presence on this. Very reasonable pick to be the best R&B soul album ever.
Fair
You
enough.
have one of the iconic transcendental landmark songs of the genre, and How Does It Feel here? It's great. 28 is fair. I have no complaints here.
Do you have complaints now?
Yes, I do. 36 Chambers, I guess I'm known as being a hater for this album. I think it's very overrated for the placement it's generally given, which is reflected here. I don't understand putting it as a top 5 album. I just can't see it.
It's over Aquemini, over Illmatic.
Yeah, both of those albums are significantly better. Both those albums have multiple songs that are head and shoulders above anything on this, in my opinion. And a lot of that just has to do with writing. I think that Wu-Tang has a cool motif going with all of their members and all of the different elements that they bring to the table. I think that there are some really good songs on here. I think there is some solid writing and definitely some great lyricism. I think that RZA kills it, obviously, with production. But no, it's just, is it like a top 2, top 3 rap album on their list? I just don't think so. I just don't think so.
You actually like some of the Wu-Tang guys' solo stuff, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I like Liquid Swords a lot. I would have been impressed and happy to see Liquid Swords in this placement, even though I disagree with it being over some of the other rap albums that we've seen. But 36 Chambers, it doesn't do it for me. it's just a little overrated. And again, I don't think it's bad. It's still like a solid 8 out of 10 album, but it's not the 27th best album of all time. And it's not a top 3 rap album. I will fight to the end that that is the case. But moving on. Horses, sure. Yeah. For the style that Patty has here and what it is, I don't really have much issue with this. I've only heard it a couple times, but I was impressed by what I heard. And to be quite frank, I don't have knowledge base to go into detail about it, but it's a really good album, and I don't really have a problem with it being there. So
Tapestry.
I haven't heard this.
Neither have I.
Yeah, I don't think I've even heard of it.
So now do we want to talk about consistency in Beatles albums? Because now we have it.
Well, yes. I mean, I agree with you. This is the best Beatles album.
Yes.
But this was their number 1 pick on their original list.
I mean,
and they made it sound pretty firm.
Odd.
So I'm surprised to see it fall all the way to 24. Because nothing's changed about this album. So I don't see why it's fallen so much.
I mean, at least they realized that there was another album from 67 that's better.
That is true. I mean, you're right. Velvet Underground Nico is better. That, I think, is low. Especially if you're taking influence into account.
Absolutely.
It's probably the most influential album ever.
Very fair.
This is just a weird stretch. It's so not Rolling Stone to see the Beatles under Velvet Underground, because usually they would gravitate towards the more popular band, the more popular pick. And even though I agree with that pick, it's strange. And then seeing Ready to Die over the Velvet Underground Nico and Sgt. Pepper's. It just... I don't get it.
I think they opened their mind a little bit
They
in
opened
terms of rap.
They opened their mind a little bit in terms of
music.
rap, which I think is good and good for their overall list. But I don't think Ready to Die is as good as either of those albums. I just don't see it.
I mean, I love Sgt. Pepper's. I love Velvet Underground Nico self-title. I love the 67 albums here.
I think Ready to Die is really good. I think that Give Me the Loot, banger, Juicy, one of the all-time classic rap songs. I think Suicidal Thoughts was amazing and really pivotal in shaping what is allowed in hip-hop and what masculinity's role was in it, sort of allowing for that vulnerability that would take a big stage in the development of rap, especially some of the newer rap that we like.
Absolutely.
I think that he really laid the foundation there. Very important, iconic record. I'm not surprised to see any of those there, but I would have guessed the reverse order of those 3.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Born to Run is an amazing album. It's amazing through and through. It's fairly concise. Actually, I'm not sure if the run time is concise, but I think it's only 9 tracks. But they're all great. The title track is an all-time banger. Thunder Road, Jungle Land, just a great album.
I love Thunder Road.
Yeah, such a good song. He's at the peak of his performance here. This is the best Bruce album to me.
He's got a solid amount of charisma too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He's sort of like a Bob Dylan who's more fun at parties, But really fuck with that album. It being there is completely valid. Happy to see it. Get praise. Kid A. Kid A is amazing.
I'm fine with that at 20.
Yeah, I'm fine with that at 22. No real complaints there. I'm glad that Rolling Stone recognizes Radiohead.
I would not take it over OK Computer, but oh well.
Especially by 20 places.
Yeah.
Usually those are sort of a tandem where it's neck and neck. But yeah, I mean, now this sort of looks like one of my lists here now, just seeing Born to Run, Kid A, Butterfly, and Bob Dylan. But yeah, Kid A is great. Now we'll talk about some Butterfly.
Now we got to it. Okay, I hate this placement because I'm so passionate on Butterfly over Dark Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I am too. I've
just
explained it
better
multiple
in
times. It's
every
better in every
way.
conceivable
There's
way.
no way that
The
Dark
only
Fantasy
thing that Dark Fantasy wins on is ease of accessibility to really entry-level music listeners. That is the only thing that it has.
Still
It's still accessible. It still has the hits. It doesn't have the hits to the level of Dark Fantasy.
No,
so,
not to the
to
level
be
of Dark
honest.
Fantasy. But you have King Kunta, which are, other than Runaway, would be the best 2 songs on Dark Fantasy. That might be hot.
Yeah, that is hot.
That's hot, but I'm such a stan for this album. I wish it was so much higher.
It's the best album in the top 100.
It's Yeah.
Yeah. It's the
my
best album in the top
favorite,
100.
so I'm not-
No, it's the best album in the top 100 for me, pretty definitively.
It's such a defining
It's
moment.
just so much better than Dark Fantasy.
It's so much better than Dark Fantasy. Dark Fantasy is like the first half of To Pimp a Butterfly, but so much worse.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, which is an idea that I've expressed multiple times that I totally co-opted from you.
But it's so true.
Yeah, they both wrestle with this idea of dealing with fame and dealing with your guilt and placement in your community and how you're going to move past that and find your own identity and self-acceptance. And To Pimp a Butterfly covers that much more effectively in half the time, is half the album, and then it takes another step forward and covers more meaningful and unprecedented ground and breaks a lot more barriers and has a much bigger impact emotionally.
Absolutely.
When you get to the end, it's just it's head and shoulders a better album.
I love how
I don't understand that, especially from the political sphere that we see Rolling Stone in, where they're a liberal publication and they had this same placement on their decade list. I don't understand why you wouldn't choose To Pimp a Butterfly to be your best album of the decade. It's a safe pick. No one's going to give you any shit for it. It's a good pick. It is the best album of the decade. And it fits all of the times super well.
Absolutely. I think that it weaves the social issues into its narrative so much better than Dark Fantasy.
Yeah.
Kendrick just explores his own psyche so much better.
So much better. It's the writing is a billion times better. The instrumentation, or not, the production is way more interesting. The way they go through these cycles of black musical styles.
And especially how that relates to his relationship to the community.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Blues to jazz to funk.
I don't
to
get
everything. It's so good.
I don't get how you can have it under Dark Fantasy. I don't get it. In no world.
If they put this number one, I would have sung their praises to no end. And I know, and we know what their one pick is, and it is sort of a watered down To Pimp a Butterfly.
I mean, I love that album.
It's a good album, but
I don't think it's anywhere close.
Not even close to Pimp a Butterfly. If we look at the three albums that we have displayed in their totality here, if you were to switch the order, I think that that would be the correct order, and I think that it would show a good midpoint, because I do think that Highway 61 is sort of the midpoint between To Pimp a Butterfly and Dark Fantasy. I think that you have
love Highway 61.
Yeah, and I think you have a low 9 to a mid 9 to a 10 here. Highway 61's fantastic. I don't think it's better than Blonde on Blonde by any means. I think that Blonde on Blonde is more consistent, more conceptual, and has the better standout couple moments. But again, Like a Rolling Stone is one of the best songs ever. Desolation Row, one of the best songs ever. Ballad of a Thin Man is one of my favorite Dylan songs. I don't like the title track that much.
Best diss track of all time?
Yeah, best diss track.
Best diss track.
I don't like the title track that much on Highway 61. I think that the sort of the noise they have going on there, I don't know what that is it puts me off. But it's a great album.
Moving on. I love London Calling. It absolutely should not be 16.
Yeah, I really like
we're
that
talking
album.
about,
It's
like,
watered
Nirvana.
down punk kind of.
It's kind of watered down punk. I think it's better than the ones with Sex Pistols.
I agree.
But I think it's also aware of its identity of being sort of middle class suburbia.
Yeah.
Punk stemming from there.
Yeah.
I think it's a little more self-aware.
Yeah.
But you brought up on the White Album how it's so inconsistent, and even though it has some interesting ideas, it just doesn't do them all the time. This is so inconsistent. This album's so long, and so many tracks don't stand out. There's some great standout tracks, but and it doesn't really build. I actually think it should end at Clampdown, even though I like some of the songs after that. If it ended at Clampdown, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it would be more fitting.
I think Clampdown is a great song.
Yeah.
Maybe my
Would
favorite
be a
on the
highlight.
album.
Yeah, sure. Would
And
be
I
a
think it
highlight
would-
to end on.
I think it would wrap up everything too.
Very valid.
I think it should end at Clampdown.
Sure. Public Enemy, Takes a Nation of Millions. I mean, I think they have it as the best rap album of all time now at this point, which I really don't agree with. I think that Butterfly sort of takes everything that Nation of Millions does and pushes it several steps, football fields of steps forward, but It Takes a Nation of Millions is a great album. Probably it did come out in the 80s, right? I'm not crazy. I think this is an 89 album, but probably my pick for best 80s rap record. Don't really have any sort of issue with it being here other than just other rap albums behind it are better. But still a really good album. What does bug me here, though, is Exile on Main Street. I thought we were done with the Rolling Stones, but they're back again. Yeah, to just confirm,
It is
89.
88.
88, okay, so off by one. But yeah, Exile on Main Street, I think I actually like, I don't know if I like Let It Bleed more, but I like Let It Bleed at 41 or whatever it was more than I like Exile on Main Street at 14. I don't see any sort of
Over
justification.
this string of albums.
Yeah,
too.
all of these
Over
albums
this
have
string of albums.
strong identity, so impactful, such good writing. We scrolled up too high, but everything about those albums is so on point, and this just isn't. The Rolling Stones are just very bare bones rock to me. They're very style over substance. They're not anything special in terms of the rock landscape. They're just big and iconic, and they got a really high placement on a list that a lot of people are going to look at and could have done a lot of good if it didn't have picks like this. Which I guess is pretty harsh, but yeah, I just don't see it. I think the Rolling Stones they're the most overrated band of all time.
I mean, it's nuts that this is at 14.
Yeah, I think in the general zeitgeist, maybe not in internet spaces that have younger people, more open-minded people, but in terms of the general zeitgeist of hip-hop rock and roll and old-timey rock critics, they're a pretty consensus top 5 band, and they shouldn't be because they're nowhere near that.
Even for the
Even for the time. Imagine if they had In the Court of the Crimson King right there instead of that.
That would be a much more.
That would be much better.
We haven't seen that.
I don't think that's on here.
Oh, that's bad.
That is bad.
That's bad.
Especially if we're talking about influence.
That's so bad.
Yeah, like people talking
Talking
about Pink
about
Floyd
that.
not being real prog or not being influential and innovative. That
King
was.
Crimson is.
Crimson fucking is.
Absolutely.
And that should have been there. King Crimson at 14 would have been a really good pick. So, in my...
Should have been King Crimson.
Yeah, it should have been King Crimson. Let's pretend that's King Crimson.
And then we'd say there's a really good
and
list.
be happier. Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, the problem with the list right now is that every album I'm just like, well, it's over to Pimp Butterfly, so it's overrated.
Yeah, which is true.
Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin. My feelings on her hasn't changed since her last entry here. This is a better album. Yeah, basically with Michael Jackson too. I can make the same comments for both of these albums. My feelings towards these artists hasn't changed since their last entry. These are the better albums, but in the top 15 it's just too high for me. I know a lot of people love Thriller. It's the best-selling album ever. It's a Mount Rushmore most iconic album ever. It's really good, but it
doesn't have much substance.
It doesn't have much substance. It doesn't cover all the bases. It just doesn't. It's very fun. It's danceable. It has a lot of hits, but the production is sort of bombastic in a way, and it's not. I don't know. I don't think it should be here. I'm not surprised that it is because of Thriller. It's the most popular album ever, but
I agree. It shouldn't be here.
Yeah. Revolver. I adore Revolver.
I love Revolver.
I listen to Revolver all the time. It's.
I very much prefer Sgt. Pepper's.
I very much prefer
In,
Sgt.
like, every
Pepper's. Yeah. Sgt. Pepper's is just a better album, and then to see them have had that at 1.
Yeah.
And then now have Revolver.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I don't know. They had Revolver at 3 before, I believe, too.
That's odd.
Which was 2 Beatles albums in the top 3. It was a little aggressive from
that's
them.
much.
Yeah. That's too much. But yeah, I don't love it there, but
I like
somewhere
the
in the
album.
top 100 is fair.
Fair.
I think.
The album's good.
Miseducation. I
like Miseducation quite a bit.
I do too, but I hate this pick.
I don't
To
think
be
it's
in the
top
top 10, the best hip hop at all.
But
album.
since we're talking about how they're going, they have an agenda.
They have an agenda.
I think having her and her experiences
Sure,
is
how she
valuable.
represents black women and
Yeah.
the black experience on this album is really good. I don't think that
She's a fantastic singer, by the way.
she is. Yeah, there's a lot of style, a lot of flair, a lot of ingenuity on this album. I wouldn't put it that high.
I think
But-
I might prefer the score, personally.
Yeah, that's fair, especially singing wise.
Fair
I
enough.
think. Blood on the Tracks. I think I rank they have 3 Dylan albums in sort of the top 50 here. I would rank them the reverse order. I like Blonde on Blonde the most, Highway 61, and then Blood on the Tracks. There are some songs on here that just don't do anything for me. Like I think it's Jack of Hearts. I forget the full name of the song, but that song is kind of grating to listen to. Although Tangled Up in Blue is probably a top 5 favorite song ever made for me. I love that song to no ends, but once I'm done with that, the rest of the album just never comes back to that height. Buckets of Rain is really good, but I don't know. It's a really good album. It's a 9, but it's not 9th of all time. So, yeah. And it's better than Purple Rain.
It is better than Purple Rain, but now we have 3 albums that are just fun albums.
They're just fun
without
albums.
much substance.
They're fun, all-time most iconic.
I hate that they take up 3 spots of the top 10 on fun albums.
Yeah.
Don't
Fun,
say much.
Yeah. Fun albums that have not a lot of writing.
I think I might rank them in this order, though.
I would rank them in that order, yeah. I think they got the order right. Maybe Rumors over Nevermind.
I think Nevermind has a little more identity.
It does, yeah. It has more grit.
Yeah. So I would much rather throw on Rumors if I'm sitting by myself. But
They never would. But if they had N.W.A here, I would be shocked, but in a really good way, because I think that N.W.A shows a band that has the chains taken off of them, working towards the identity that they want, covering what they want to talk about, and making a more truthful, more vulnerable, more legitimate album experience for their fans. Nevermind is much more commercial. It's much more restricted. While it does have good moments and songs that are pretty terrifying, N.W.A is just a better album in every way, shape, and form. So I would have liked to see that there. But, of course, Nevermind is way, way more iconic, so it's going to get that spot. But let's see a top 5.
I hate this so much. I hate this so much. One, worst Beatles album we've covered so far.
Yep, that's fair.
2, this album is nonsense.
It is complete nonsense.
It's nonsense.
I do want to say I love the album.
Oh, sorry, 4 albums that are nonsense that are fun to listen to.
Yeah.
But this is the most nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I love the album. I listen to it a lot. It is very fun. It has a great, unique style that is transcendent and has made it an all-time, timeless classic. But
it's one of those
it's gibberish. It is gibberish. The whole album is gibberish. They're not talking about anything the entire time. The medley's really cool. Stylistically, it flows very well. All of their performances are good for what the Beatles are trying to do, but I don't see it. I mean,
I think the medley.
I do, because I'm not surprised to see another Mount Rushmore most iconic album ever at this high, but I don't think that the quality argument is there.
No, I also think the medley could have been really good. It's just too much
if it wasn't nonsense.
Like how it finishes out, that
all of
last
the writings,
line.
nonsense.
Well, I can't remember.
Your Majesty is a pretty nice girl.
No, the song before that, yeah.
Oh, and in the end, the love you make is different.
Is equal to the love you take. The love you take is equal to the love you make. Like I think that's
that's a really strong last
statement. It's just we didn't build up to.
We didn't build anything.
So much nonsense.
We didn't build anything.
If that was the closing statement of this long, weird, experimental blending of tracks that just finished out this iconic album, and we got that at the end, I think that could have been really.
That could have been amazing.
And it's just not.
It's just
we just talked about how she came in through the bathroom window, and you should have seen Polythene Pam.
Yeah.
And it's nonsense.
Yeah. Mean Mr. Mustard.
Yeah, Mean Mr. Mustard.
Yeah. This is. I remember seeing a Beatles interview where they talk about how they don't really write songs on acid, even though people think they do, because it sounds like shit. I feel like they wrote the lyrics to this album on acid, because they're nonsense. But acid doesn't even make you think that nonsensical, so I don't really know where the hell they got this from. But sure, keep going. Oh, you're right.
Songs in the Key of Life.
Songs in the Key of Life is really high.
This album's fun.
Album's fun. It's well made. It's not the 4th best album of all time. I don't see how.
I mean, I love Sir Duke, but
I agree.
I don't
see how. I don't want to just rip on it though, because I don't listen to it a whole ton, and I don't want to come off as ignorant. So let's just keep going.
Number 3.
Interesting pick. I listened to this album fairly recently in its totality. It's really good. It's well written. I think she expresses her mental state, her conflicts, her depressions pretty clearly, pretty well. I think that it's well sung, well done. I think that I'd give it a high 8 to a... No, I'd probably give it a high 8. I don't think it's the third best album of all time, but I don't think it's a bad pick. I think it's interesting and honestly probably better than another pick they would have made. So I'm not going to complain about this. I forgot what number 2 is. What is number 2? Oh, Pet Sounds. Yeah. I take a lot of flack for saying the song's overrated. I do think the song's overrated, especially on this list. But generally, I say it's overrated when it's put in a position like this. I still think it's a really good album.
I like the album. I certainly don't think it's better than Sgt. Pepper's since those get compared.
They do get compared because there was sort of this conflict between the Beach Boys and the Beatles, and you have both sides sort of acknowledging that the Beatles won.
Yeah. Oh, that story of what's his name? Brian.
Will no.
Is it Wilson?
Yeah. No. To be fair, to anyone listening, it's 4:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we sound like we don't know what we're talking about, that's why.
Definitely
It's
part of it. It is 4:30 a.m.
We're recording.
Yeah.
That story of the singer like freaking
Sure.
out in the studio after hearing Sgt. Pepper's is kind of funny because
It is
Sgt.
funny.
Pepper's just is better than this album.
It is
and
better
he
than this
realized
album.
it. And
Yeah.
this album's great. I love this album.
And it was funny
I
to
think
see them
the
have...
album he knows is good, but
Originally, they had Sgt. Pepper's 1 in this too. And it was like...
it was Sgt. Pepper's
Sure.
1, this
You're-
2, and then Revolver 3.
Yeah.
That's so
that's 2 years and
boring.
it's so
basic.
It's 2 years.
basic.
Honestly... Wait, what year is it?
Okay, it's 66 and 67, right?
None of them are top 3 albums in those 3 years, in those 2 years either, because Blonde on Blonde, The Velvet Underground and Nico, and... Oh wait, shit, I'm missing something.
I don't know what you're missing.
Oh, you know what, I was thinking In a Court of the Crimson King, which is just very much 1969, yeah. So maybe one of them is, but yeah, no. I don't think it's the second best album of all time, but it's a really good album and incredibly influential, so I'm not dismissed. And then the best album of all time, according to Rolling Stone magazine.
I love this album.
Yeah,
I know you don't like it as much as me.
I don't like it as much as you.
I love this album.
I think it's an enjoyable listen. I think he has a really strong, passionate, soulful performance. He talks about a lot of relevant issues in a sort of prescient manner.
Absolutely.
But I just don't think it's the best album ever. That's really what it is. Most of my gripe comes from just the placements more so than the album. Fair. It's just not the best album ever. I think that, let's see, if we were to just go through the top 20, how many albums do I think? How many albums are better? I think I do think Pet Sounds is better. I absolutely think Blue is better. I don't know if I think Nevermind is better or Rumors. I don't think Purple Rain is better. Blood on the Tracks is better. Revolver is pretty even. It's better than Thriller and Aretha Franklin's album. Much better than Rolling Stones' album. I probably would take Public Enemy. Would not take The Clash. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is better, in my opinion.
Hell no.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of it is the time. It's just sonically is just stronger. Highway 61 is better. To Pimp a Butterfly is better. Kid A is better. Born to Run is better. This is sort of their peak here when you get to the top. Like these 4.
Oh, if this was 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, it'd be better, but
I'd be
pissed.
I would be pissed because you just have all of the people who think Dark Fantasy is the best album of all time be very validated, and it just isn't.
And Butterfly just right there.
It's
Even
so much
though
better.
it
bugs me. If they had these 4, but it went Kid A 1, Butterfly 2, Highway 61 3, Dark Fantasy 4, I'd be very okay with that. I think that Kid A, in a sense, you can argue is sort of the furthest evolution of music at the time when it came out, and a jump.
Have you heard Remain Light?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
What, the closest thing, Low?
Yeah.
Remain Light's still just so much of a jump.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the high point of their list. I think that it is a better list than their original one, but still leaves a lot to be desired here. But,
I mean,
yeah.
For what they're going for.
For what they're going for.
On,
they did a decent job.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love what's going on.
It is very appropriate for the current political climate that we're in.
I do love how what's going on. I think it's a good pick. It really does define that experience in that era, and unfortunately how some of the things Marvin Gaye was going through on that album have persisted. I think it's still a relevant album. I still think it's a fantastic album.
Sure.
I mean, I would prefer Butterfly, but
yeah.
oh well.
Yeah, I mean, if they put To Pimp a Butterfly #1 and pissed off all of their boomer ass readers, that would have been amazing. I would have loved to see that. And it would have been a really fucking good pick.
Absolutely.
But they chose sort of the more old guard album that is in the same vein, which is understandable.
I think they do go for something that has a little bit more pop appeal. And while maybe today To Pimp a Butterfly has a little more pop appeal than What's Going On, I think that What's Going On has more like sing-along songs that you can have some sort of camaraderie
It's
to.
more intergenerational.
Yeah, you can identify with it a little more. And
Yeah.
I think the fact that he was able to get all these ideas that he had in and all these emotions that he had in sort of, I don't necessarily want to say anthemic, but like it's something that you can sing along to.
Yeah.
It's something you
I would say anthemic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anthemic?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if that was the right word.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I think that that's an apt description.
So I think that does make this album pretty impressive, and for their purpose, what they value for their purposes, I think this is a fair pick.
It's a fair pick. Yeah. It is a fair list, honestly. And there's definitely some things that I have major complaints with, especially their rap album rankings and
The Rolling Stones.
the Rolling Stones. Yeah. The Rolling Stones one spot above OK Computer is just pains me. But
That album has Give Me Shelter, though, right?
yeah.
That song's really good.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's the best Rolling Stones album or a song.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like Stairway.
Yeah.
I think
It
it's
is.
like the only one that's fairly well written and like about something.
Yeah, but a lot of it is in the feature. I don't know her name, but the female vocalist that features on that
absolutely.
is just incredible.
I used to know her name. Why is
yeah.
it 4:30 a.m.?
It's just
I would have said her name.
The one thing you never want to do is C5. We're fucking
We're
we're
CN5.
CN5. We're
CN5,
CN5. I'm
yeah.
gonna go read Vagabond too.
I'm
just
gonna read Tension.
yeah. I'm cucked on sleep for tonight, but that's all right. Well, yep. That was our take on the Rolling Stone top. 100 because
Yeah.
I don't want to stay up another hour to do
Yeah, let's see
the other
6.
400. I don't know. Was there anything that you wanted to cover from the rest of it? Oh, them not having Black Star. I know you had
yes.
some.
Do they not have it on the entire list?
You could probably just Control F.
This is 1 to 250. So Black Star. They don't have it in the top 250 albums. Do they have it
Which
in
that
the...
alone is
That alone is bad.
is
but
terrible
we'll go
because
to next.
it's a top 5, 10 album of the decade and a top 3 Bowie album.
Black Star. Okay, they don't have Black
Is there
Star.
a space?
I can check, but I don't think there is.
But it could just be the way that
Yeah.
it's done on this
Black
platform.
Star, no, not
Use
in
the back arrow.
Sure. Okay, they don't have Black Star in the top 500 albums of all time.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about if we're looking at what they're going for, if we're looking at what we would want, if we're looking at literally any metric, that album should be here. It's one of Bowie's best albums. It's such a strong statement. It's a unique statement on him dealing with his own mortality.
Yep.
It's an emotional album.
Yep.
It's one of rock's
It's so fucking good.
It's one of rock's all-time greats, saying goodbye to the world.
Yeah.
It is fantastic, and to not put it in the top 500
It is a slap in the face. It's embarrassing for their publication, honestly. It is fucking tragic.
Do they not have the Man Who Sold the
Oh, they do
World
have the Mathers LP somewhere.
at 145?
Yeah.
I don't know what would be their third Bowie album, but Black Star should be
Yeah,
in the top
no,
three Bowie albums.
that's-
It's absolutely in the top 3 Bowie albums.
One of the worst things in the list for sure.
I think it's
That
kind of insulting. To be
It
honest.
is insulting. It's insulting and it's kind of fucked up.
It's
kind of fucked up.
He gave-
they should be embarrassed.
Honestly,
Yeah, they should
I
be
think
embarrassed.
Black
about
Star
that.
should
Yeah.
absolutely be there.
Yep.
It's
But,
such a strong statement.
Yeah. But shout out to them for having Aeroplane on the list.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I didn't
Where
expect
they
it to
have
be anywhere, but it's like 300 something.
Okay. Let's look at
Let's
the placement.
Let's see.
Your
In
boy.
the Aeroplane over the sea.
There it is.
376.
376.
It is 375 spots too low.
Mark, it's literally worse than Dookie. By
It's
that.
literally worse than Dookie. It's worse than Dookie.
It's not as good as Dookie.
It's just about as good as the Yeah as a
Yeah.
Fever in a Hotel. It's worse than let's see here. The Carter 2.
Oh, yeah.
Why is this so low? This album's fucking great.
That album is great.
This is... no, you know what? I do like Take Care better, but they're like neck and neck. Fucking Aerosmith? Fuck you.
That's an oof right there.
That's an oof.
That is an oof. We're saying it's an oof for different reasons.
Yeah, fuck you, Scott.
Mark, this album has no emotional depth.
Yeah, I know, but it's so great. Yeah, Indie Airplane Odyssey is 374 spots too low, but it's on the list, so that's something. But you know what?
If they had the Rap Thought World top 5.
Oh, that'd be great. I don't even know what my
incredible.
top 5 is right now, but that's right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Hope everyone enjoyed. I hope that wasn't 2 hours. I don't know how long it was, but
Might be pushing it.
yeah. Okay. Well,
Goodbye, everyone.
goodbye. Have a good day, and we're gonna try to fall asleep before 5.
We'll show Aeroplane to finish it out.
Yo,
376. Good job, Rolling Stone. At least
good job.
Do they have the actual best album of all time?
Which is what? What are you gonna say? Like Cyndi Lauper or something?
Fuck.
Yo.
That's not gonna work.
No, that's not good.
I forgot.
That is
Voice
true.
is the word.
You put Joanna.
Oh,
See what comes up.
Nope. Hey, maybe they put it.
Let's
You
see.
are optimistic.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. End the video.
Fuck them for No Yeast. Fuck them for Black Star.
Valid.
Let's go. What's going on?